Okay, so one thing that a lot of people struggle with when they're starting their bookkeeping or accounting firm, and it's not unique necessarily to starting accounting or bookkeeping, this is like one of the most acute ones when you're doing a business to business sale, right? So business to business versus business to consumer. Business to consumer means you're like selling to regular people who don't have businesses. Business to business means you're selling to a business. Now, sometimes with these B2B sales, you're dealing with very headstrong individuals, and the reason why that can be a little bit challenging is because it's harder to get them to make a decision through objection handling. So you can't use really hard objection handling. You have to use very soft objection handling to kind of to basically get them to want to move forward. But you also have to use time-based processes to get them to complete certain steps towards working with you. So one thing that I always like doing is, number one, I'm always trying to see, like, are there other people they're speaking to? Are there other, like, service providers they're speaking to? Because if they are, like, it's not that it's, like, necessarily challenging or hard. It's just that you want to kind of know, because that's going to add time to when the person talks to you versus when they actually pay. Sometimes it can be, like, a day, a week, a month. It really depends how long it is. You also need to see, is the person considering those other options, or are they just more meeting with them, like, out of respect? Like, is it like a family friend, like, oh, I have to meet with that person just because, like, I feel obligated to? Or is it more they're actually considering that person as a potential opportunity? And you'd be surprised, like, a lot of people will actually still do a meeting with someone just out of respect, not necessarily they're actually, like, looking to work with that person. Now, if they are looking to work with that person, your job is to get an understanding of, like, what do they feel the strengths and the weaknesses are of the other team. And also, you need to know, like, how do they really choose, like, what's the best fit for them? Like, what is their criteria for knowing who is the right person to work with? A lot of these guys will then tell you, well, I've never worked with anyone with a bookkeeper before, or an accountant before, so I don't know. In that case, you generally need to give them 3 to 5 criteria that you know you're really strong at, and you know most people are really weak at. Okay? That way, if they have to do the other call with the other person, it's kind of like they're not going to live up to that thing because you set the standard. You told them, like, what is reasonable for the business owner to kind of go with. And it just makes total sense, right? So that's another area that where you can, like, kind of increase that speed. Another area you can do is having a follow-up call being scheduled. So whenever I'm talking to business owners, if they don't pull the trigger on the phone or if they want to see a proposal, I'm going to try to schedule a follow-up call. So after they've viewed a proposal, or if I'm doing the proposal on the phone, but they have not purchased, I'm trying to schedule a follow-up call. I do not want to leave the consultation call without having another meeting booked on the calendar. Okay, now this can be a little challenging depending on the industry you're working with, right? If you're working with, like, for example, we were talking to a guy, he does, like, audio, he's like an audio technician kind of person, where he basically will go, it's like an audio visual kind of thing. So he basically, like, was tinting some cameras yesterday at, like, a movie set, right? So it's like they were shooting a movie, and he was basically helping, like, the tints on the cameras to make sure the actors were, like, portrayed in the correct lighting. That person is very hard to get on a phone call, right? So you have to make sure every phone call you do with that person, like, works. So it can be hard to schedule a follow-up call with that person. However, what I have seen is that if someone's interested and serious about working with someone, they will schedule a number of calls, right? So it's like, even though it's tough and, like, it might be at, like, really weird times. So, like, some people say, like, well, I don't know if I can start my accounting and bookkeeping business. I have a job. So I can only meet with them in the evenings. Like, a lot of these business owners can only meet in the evening, right? That happens a lot with, like, doctors when they're first starting their business. Like, they're working during the day too. So it's almost like they're doing their business as, like, their job essentially, right? So it's like they're working as well. So it's like they're not necessarily going to be able to meet with you during the day. Like, they could, but it might be a little bit tight and they might be a little bit distracted, right? So evening times can generally work okay. Same thing with, like, morning times, right? So you have to really be kind of flexible when you're going after those people. But again, I'm always trying to schedule a follow-up call because I need to be able to handle the objections and answer the questions as they come up. But it also makes you feel as though you're inside or in control of the sales process, because every single time you speak to somebody, you can move them 1 to 3 steps forward in the process of working together. So when I say the 1 to 3 steps, step number 1 is they have a problem. Step number 2 is they start looking for solutions. Step number 3 is they find you. Step number 4 is they want to talk to you. Step number 5 is they book a consultation call. Step number 6 is they do the consultation call and give access to books. Step 7 or 6, whatever, 7, probably we're on 7, I think. You send them a proposal. Step 8, you do another call. Step 9, they work with you, right? So every single time you're on the phone, you're moving them 1 to 3 steps. So it's in your best interest to be on the phone as much as possible with these guys. It doesn't have to take an hour each time you speak. It can take 10 minutes. 10 minutes is really all you need to kind of move them from step 1 to step 4. That's just kind of what's worked for me and like what's worked for some of our students in our program. And it's like, always keep in mind, the hardest sale is the first time you sell someone, right? Because it's like, once you guys are kind of working together, they've made that decision to go with you, then it's like you just keep going. Plus you can have auto billing come out of their card every month, so it's just pulling and pulling and pulling. I do like that aspect. It does work really well. But yeah, the hardest part is just getting them to sign on the dotted line in the beginning, right? Because I think there's a lot of like commitment that needs to go, and like a lot of them are like kind of procrastinating and pushing it off. So it's just like, yeah. One thing that can help you actually as you get more established is really track how much time on average it takes from when someone first sees you to when they sign up with you. If you know that number, it makes everything so much more comfortable and so much easier. Cool.